Okay, so I'm doing a valve cover. To give a little backstory on this, basically my valve cover cracked. It's actually a hairline crack, and you can see the oil pooled up down in there by the injectors and the coil packs. It gets worse the further back you go, but I found a crack on it. It's a little hard to see without a light, but once I start taking everything apart, you'll understand. But how do you remove the cover? Because it just retains heat is what a lot of people say, especially if you got the foam insulation inside it. But I'm going to do a little video showing how to remove everything else and basically what it takes to swap the valve cover. Here's the new valve cover. I bought it for about $170. Comes with the gasket and the bolts. I'm also going to be doing a compression test since I already have the spark plugs and coil packs out, just to check my compression, seeing how it's doing. Me personally, since I'm doing the compression test, I would recommend that before you start this, you can disconnect the battery. You don't have to. Also, I didn't disconnect the battery, but I did disconnect the fuel pump only because it's like 2 plugs and they're easy to pop your seat up and get to. So I pop this up and pull from the front. It comes right up. Then you got a total of 4 nuts that screw in to hold this plate on, and then once you pull that plate off, there's 2 plugs, and then you just can squeeze and pull out those plugs. I started the car and let it run after I pulled the plugs out, just to make sure that there was no fuel left in the lines, because when I do my compression test, I don't want it to flood out my cylinders. But yeah, I ran it for like a second and then it just died out. But other than that, basically just going to be swapping the valve cover, doing a compression test, seeing how everything's holding up. I'm going to start with this back here. My bolts on it are a little messed up. I only have one holding it in, so that comes out pretty simple. This comes out like just 1 clip on the front, 1 clip on the back. That comes off. I'm just going to be setting my stuff in this box with my new valve cover. The same thing on this side. I'm going to have to take off this cap because the new one doesn't come with the cap, so I'm going to be reusing this cap. I'm probably just going to leave it off for now. I'm not going to put it on yet. Also, this little rubber plate that goes around the ring of it. There, you can buy a new one of those if you prefer. Me personally, I think it's fine. You're gonna have to unclip this too, because you're taking this whole shroud off basically. So originally you should have 1 on each side to hold in this air filter, and then another 2 on that side to hold in that side, and then down here you should have another 2. They're 8 mils. After you take all these off, it should come right out. You got this little rubber piece that's not really attached, and sometimes they put a little screw to hold that in right there. I don't have it though. Also, you want to disconnect the sensor right here. Oh look, I lost this, I think. That's nice, I found it. I can't believe it stayed in there. So this, there's a little clip on the side, you squeeze and it pulls right off. And that should come all the way off. You don't even need to really remove the bolts for the air filter, except for these ones up top here on both sides, and the whole thing should come right out. And then remember to attach the cables down here. That whole thing comes out. Whole tray. Okay. And that pretty much exposes just about everything you need at this point. Coil packs. Pop that out. Pull it off like that. You can grab it by here, or you can grab it down lower. Sometimes these little caps at the top get brittle. You can see mine looks pretty good. There's no oil down. Okay, we're back. We got all these out. Took a quick peek. They look okay. I think, you know, what I went ahead and did is I disconnected the battery, just because these grounds, you know, when you take them out, you don't want to risk anything. Me personally, I don't. But yeah, just disconnect the battery. These right here are, I'm pretty sure, yeah, they're an 8. So you just pull all these out. Don't worry about the spark plugs, but pull all these grounds off. There's 3 of them in total, one in the back, one in the center, and then one near the front. Pull all those out, and then after that you can move on to the fuel system. So you want to start with the front or the back, it don't really matter. I mean, I just like starting with the front personally, but I already cracked this one loose. It's 14. What you're going to want to do is get a rag, and you're going to want to take it off like that so you don't get fuel in your face. Okay, so I'm going to take off those lines and then I'll be back. For the actual injectors off too as well. From what I see, this is a housing that's bolted down that holds all your wires. So you could just unbolt this and probably pry it out of the way and get by without, you know, taking any of this out. But you're definitely going to need to disconnect your injectors and these grounds and the coil packs. So these, it's just a squeeze pull. Also, these vacuum lines right here, you can disconnect them down here, or you can disconnect them over here, depending on how your vacuum lines are set up. I know those have a tendency to break, so some people replace them and then they don't disconnect until they're all the way down on the other side, and then you got to disconnect them there. Just wherever you can disconnect them to get them out of the way is what you want to do. But after you take those 2 off, you're going to want to come back in here and you're going to want to take off the PCV. It's a little like tube, hooks up right here, little valve. I have a catch can, so mine actually runs all the way over to my catch can. But if you just squeeze, sometimes you need to use a flathead. This one's not that easy to get out. There's an O-ring in there too. Sometimes that goes bad, and if that happens, you might shoot a ton of oil down here, and that's where a lot of my oil could be coming from too. But there, I can see there's a crack, so it's not just that. Yeah, like I thought, it is a 10 mil, so that's also a 10 mil to pull that harness off. It's only held on by two, one in the back. You can see that properly. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so that one back there, right below my finger, and then this one up here. Once you pull that off, all these wires should fold back. They should just fold back so that you can pull this valve cover out. But like I said, I'm gonna set this down because I'm gonna need 2 hands for this. It should just take a quick second. I'm using an electric impact too. If you're not that experienced, I wouldn't recommend using it to reinstall, because you could potentially crack or strip, you know, your screws or your nuts or bolts. You just want to be careful because it is a plastic valve cover unless you're upgrading it. So reinstalling it, you definitely don't want to over torque it, and if you have a torque wrench, it's the best way to go. But yeah, I'm gonna take these out real quick. Okay, there's one. Got this one down here. Okay, and there's two. And now that whole harness should just be free. Yep, and it's free like I thought. So now it's just a matter of removing these injector wires, which I'm gonna take a second to do. Okay, so now we're at the point where everything's disconnected, the grounds, coil packs, and then we got this cable management plastic piece disconnected. That'll fold over. I'm not gonna bother taking anything out of that. Just make sure when you take this off, either label it with a piece of tape or keep it so that it lays in order. If you keep it in this bracket, it shouldn't be hard to tell where everything goes, because these clips hold pretty much where the cables are supposed to go, you know, because this one's all the way at the top, so it's a given this is the one that's going to reach that. This one would, but it's going to be a stretch, so I'm not really worried about that. I disconnected these two lines over here, folded them out of the way. I can actually show you on the new one because it'd be a lot easier. But you have 4 in the front, 3 in a row right here, you know, and then it goes 4 the whole way down, all the way till you get the last 4 on the back. Okay, if you ordered a new one, you should be able to look at it and see where all of them go. I can assume the back ones are probably going to be the most tough ones to get, but if you have an extension with a swivel on the end, you should be able to stick it down in there and break them loose with the ratchet. I don't think you're going to be able to get a wrench down there. Okay, so this hose pops off. It's a little hard. It clips on the top and bottom, so you have to squeeze in the center. Sometimes you have to use a flathead to push the bottom or the top down. There's the O-ring on there. You can replace it if needed. I'm going to use some heavy-duty silicone, and that should help you know, re-nourish the rubber. I got all of the connectors off. I got most of these loose. The whole thing's coming up. Ended up having to get a different E-socket. I had one in the back luckily, but this is an E10. It's an E10 for these, and then also you want to make sure you have a, for these ground posts, you want to make sure you have a 3/8 drive socket with a 10 mil, because 3/8 won't work, 11 won't work, 7/16 won't work, none of that shit will work. So you're gonna have to use 10 mil, and you want to make sure that the inner diameter of it, because you're gonna have to have it, the socket wrench, it's not gonna be fully in. This is gonna poke out a little bit, and you're just barely gonna be able to grip the socket to turn it. So you just want to be careful and not strip it. If you can find a longer 10 mil socket that will go down the whole length of this and will be small enough to fit inside the diameter of this plastic cover to keep the ground safe, then that will work too. But if you don't have it, a 3/8 deep or a 10 mil deep well, and it can't be a 1/2 inch, can't be a 1/4 drive, or a 1/2 inch drive. It can only be a 3/8 drive. The 1/2 inch is too big, it won't fit in the well, and then the 1/4 is too short. So, but after you get those loose, you're gonna have to take off the fuel rail too, because it won't come off without the fuel rail. There might be a way to wiggle it around it, but I'm not even gonna bother. It's just the fuel line, the main fuel line connecting it. Right here at the front, this is a 17 mil. And then these 2 bolts holding the fuel rail, or actually, my bad, 4. There's 2 right here, and then there's 2 in the back. And they're an 11 mil is what I fit on there, and it's snug. But I'm gonna take those off, and then the whole thing should just come right off. Okay, I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I ended up taking off this to give me a little more clearance. Probably not necessary, but I did it anyway. I got the old one out. I have an upgraded valve, PCV valve, so I swapped it out of my old one. The crack, you can actually see it way better on this one. So if I show you, yeah, there it is right there. You see the crack goes all the way down. It's not a big crack, I looked all over it. That's the only crack. The gasket is pretty much brand new. It's not brittle. It's really rubbery. I'm not going to reuse it though. It's a shame that such a small crack was pushing out so much oil. But that one came out. Like I said, all I had to disconnect extra that I didn't show you guys was this, which is another E socket. It's a big one. Where did I even put it? I think it's right here. Yeah, it's this one. No, that's an E10. Oh yeah, it's right here. Okay, so this one, it's an E16 for that. It's not necessary though. You could take out that one up there too if you want some more clearance, because it is really tight. And then some people say take out, like, there's a power cable over here you can remove to make it less tight, but it's a matter of just moving cables and pulling and sliding, and you know, you're just gonna have to wiggle it around once you loosen everything to pull it out. There's sleeves, metal sleeves, that you might have to reach down in there and push out because it won't come by, but you can see them down in there. You can see them down in there. I guess you can't. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, those sleeves, there's 6 of them. They get stuck in there sometimes. I sprayed my valve cover down with silicone spray, the top of it, just to help it. They give it an extra layer of protection from the heat from the engine, because these N54s run pretty hot. I also sprayed down that O-ring like I said I would. Besides that, I took out two vacuum sensors that were plugged in right over here. There's one there and one there, just to give it a little extra room. You don't have to do that, but I did. Right now I'm fitting it up, sliding it in. You want to make sure the gasket stays on and it doesn't come off when you're refitting it, because if it does, then you're going to have a leak. So if you're going to do this and you want to do it and have no problems, you're going to want to make sure you have all the tools that I told you. I'll put them in the description, but yeah, definitely it should only take you like 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much experience you have and if you have all the tools. Okay, finished putting the valve cover back together. It's been about a week. I don't see it leaking. It looks like it's holding up pretty well. There's no oil coming from either side or in the center. That's about it for an update. Everything went back in pretty smoothly. Like I said, it's just a matter of kind of moving this around and getting it to fit under the wires. But other than that, yeah, it's a pretty solid valve cover with a gasket for 170. Okay, there you go.